Welcome to the Audio Inc. Radio podcast, featuring interviews with the biggest names in rock and metal, hosted by Anne Erickson.
Get inked. Visit Facebook.com/Audio Inc. Radio, Twitter.com/Audio Inc. Radio, and AudioIncRadio.com for more ink. Whew, that's a lot of ink. It's AudioIncRadio.com.
Welcome to the Audio Inc. Radio podcast with me, Anne Erickson. As always, it's great to hang out with you. You are the best. I think that everyone remembers the moment that they heard Chris Cornell had passed away. I remember being so shocked because I was actually supposed to photograph the Detroit show. That was his final show, and I was sick. I wasn't feeling well. So I went back and forth on it, but I decided not to go out and do the show. And then I woke up the next day, and my mom was actually the one who told me. She called me and she's like, Anne, Chris Cornell died. And I'll never forget that feeling. I did not believe it because it just sounded too horrible and too impossible to be true. But then seeing everything online and realizing it was true was so devastating. I mean, he seemed like he was on top of the world. Soundgarden was back together and they were going to headline Rock on the Range just a few days later, and they had a big tour up ahead and they'd been doing awesome, and he seemed like he was in a very positive place. I actually interviewed Chris Cornell about maybe a year or maybe a year and a half before he passed away, and he seemed fine. He seemed okay. I don't know how else to put it. Nothing really stood out to me about that interview that was a red flag. When I interviewed Scott Weiland, that was a different story, but that'll be for another podcast. There were definitely red flags with that interview, but with Chris Cornell, he really seemed fine, and he was very gracious. Just crazy to think that he's gone. I was a big fan of his in Soundgarden and Audioslave even more because I really loved Audioslave. It's one of the first bands that I ever really got into. But after Chris Cornell passed away, Chester Bennington from Linkin Park was a big part of his funeral and stuff like that because they were friends. And then to hear later that Chester also passed away committing suicide, that was so just awful. I was in total shock about that one as well. I'm sure that you were, and everyone was. I mean, I had no idea that Chester or Chris Cornell had those demons that would come out like that. I mean, people say that artist types often have those demons, and I get it. I mean, even for me with my own band, when I make my own music, a lot of it is getting out emotions and feelings, and I often write about losing a loved one and stuff like that. So I understand from the artistic standpoint that artists and musicians often seem to feel things stronger than others and maybe have those ups and downs more than others. I don't know, but it was awful and terrible, and I was a huge fan of both of them. My mom and I actually, my mom's favorite concert that we have ever been to, and we've been to a lot of concerts together, but my mom's favorite concert was Linkin Park. I want to say it was their 1,000 Suns tour. I'm not sure, but it was at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Rest in peace. That was a great venue, and I'm so sad that it's gone, but so we went to that show and we wanted to beat the traffic. So we kept leaving towards the end of the show. We would leave our seats and go out in the main hall area to leave. And then we would hear Linkin Park start another song and we would get so excited and be like, I love this song. And so we would run back into our seats for that song, go back out and do the same thing, run back to our seats. And finally this usher came up to us and he was like, you girls are so cute. You both love Linkin Park so much. And it was just really funny because we were quite the spectacle trying to leave that show before the crowd, but then we just could not do it because every song that came on we loved so much. My mom and I just huge Linkin Park fans, and so the whole thing was just crazy. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because we have a great guest on the show, Sean from Grey Daze. Now, Grey Daze was the band that Chester was in when he was just a teenager. It was before Linkin Park, and when you hear Chester's vocals on the music of Grey Daze, you can just tell that even at 17 years old, he was so talented and had just an amazing gift that he would be sharing with the world. Grey Daze last year released Amends, which is really cool. It's a record featuring Chester's vocals that have never been released, and just it's a great album. If you're a fan of Chester or any just kind of alternative rock music, I highly suggest that you check it out. And then, very cool, they just released Amends Stripped, which, as it sounds, Amends Stripped features Chester's vocals with an acoustic backing. So all of these tracks on there are acoustic, and it really brings out Chester's raw talent and just his vocal quality. And even better, Sean tells me that there is more Grey Daze music out there. He says there is so much stuff featuring Chester's vocals that they've found, and they're already working on their follow-up to Amends, which is very exciting. But if you're a fan of Chester, this is a different side of him from what you'll hear in Linkin Park. And it's a beautiful side. It's more melodic, and it's very earnest and very young. So very happy to have Sean from Grey Daze on the show. It's Anne Erickson, and you are rocking out to the Audio Inc. Radio podcast featuring the biggest names in rock and metal. And if you don't subscribe yet, kind of mad at you, have to say, but go ahead and do it right now. You can find us basically wherever you rock out to podcast. Just search Audio Inc. Radio or search my name, Anne Erickson, wherever you listen to podcast. Hit subscribe, and if you leave a 5-star review, that is extra awesome. Thank you for the amazing support. And hey, also don't be shy. Get in touch with me on social media. I'm online all the time. Be part of the conversation. You can hit me up on Facebook by heading to this site, itsmeanne.com. That's itsmeanne.com. itsmeanne.com to link up on my personal Facebook. If you head there, you'll see, just scroll down just a bit and you'll see big buttons to hit for my Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. And Twitter direct is at Anne Erickson. Snapchat is at Anne Erickson. Instagram is Erickson Anne. And you can also link up with Audio Inc. Radio, the publication, on Facebook and Twitter at Audio Inc. Radio. That's facebook.com/Audio Inc. Radio. Twitter.com/Audio Inc. Radio, INK like Tattoo Inc., audioinkradio.com. We're going to be hanging out together on the podcast all year because I've got some amazing guests lined up. But right now we've got Sean from Grey Daze, and we're going to talk all about that new record, Amends Stripped, and so much more. Let's do it.
Hey everyone, this is Sean Dowdell, the drummer for Grey Daze, and you are listening to Audio Inc. Radio with Anne Erickson.
Well, Sean, it's great to talk with you today. How have you been holding up during this just wild, crazy time?
This last year was rough, I think, for a lot of people, and we just did our best to get through it and make the best of a bad situation. And I'm actually, coming out of it with more gratitude and feeling good about the future.
Well, yeah, and congrats on all of your success with Amends and Amends Stripped. Now that the record has been out there for a while, looking back on the whirlwind of releasing Amends last year, what stands out the most to you as a favorite aspect of getting it out there?
Oh, man, that's a loaded question. The biggest thing was just completing the journey with my friend that we started. This was important to him and I. before he passed, and it took a while to get it up off the ground after he was gone. But once we decided to do that, it took a couple years and a lot of people involved and a lot of determination, a lot of hurdles to jump over. So just getting to the finish line and knowing that we completed it for our friend was really the biggest thing for me.
Right. And of course, Amends Stripped just came out, and I love how the acoustic backing on those tracks just really brings out Chester's vocals to the forefront. What made you guys want to put out an acoustic version of the record?
Well, it all started when we were recording Amends, and Tom Wally, he's the head of music at Concord in Loma Vista, he came in and listened to what we were doing. He said, this is really good, you guys. I think our big distribution partners like Walmart and Target are going to want an exclusive track in order to pick up the record, and it's a big deal for them to pick it up. So do we have any extra bonus tracks? And I was like, well, sort of. And I showed him these acoustic versions we had, and he said, these are great. So he sent us back in the studio right after we finished recording Amends with a producer named Billy Bush. And we worked on 3 tracks, Sometimes, What's in the Eye, and Soul Song with Billy. Once we got those done, we put them on as the bonus tracks, one for the Japanese release, one for Target, one for Walmart, so that they all had their exclusive packaging, if that makes sense. And then once we did that, we were just on the phone one day, and it was Tom Wally, his son Ryan Wally, the head of A&R at Loma Vista, myself, and we just started talking about, well, we need to get back in the studio right away. And I said, it was in the middle of the pandemic, and it just seemed like it would be next to impossible to try to do a whole nother record at that moment. And so we compromised on doing an EP with the acoustic stuff we had, and we just needed to get 2 more tracks on that. And so he set us back in the studio to do 1 more track with Billy Bush and S.J. Jones. And then we used a track we had that was already in existence from 1997, where we were in a room together, just Chester, myself, Mace, and our original guitar player, Bobby, during another recording session. And I had just jumped on the piano, and we just played around with this version of The Syndrome, and we tracked it down to a 2-track, and we used that version on Amends Stripped for a couple reasons. One, the performance is really cool. It's not by any means a perfect performance. There's some notes, some odd notes and stuff in there, but it just captures a really cool vibe. And the way Chester sings the song at the tempo we sing it at is really different and would be impossible to recreate at this point because we don't have it on a multi-track. We literally just recorded it in a room with a couple microphones and went right to 2 tracks. So, and then the second reason is it gives us a chance to put some original material with Bobby, our original guitar player, out there on the stuff that we're doing and kind of pay homage to him.
Wow. I think it's so cool that, as you mentioned, some of the stuff on Stripped isn't perfect sounding. And I think today we're given so much perfect sounding stuff that a computer fixed. And I think that's definitely part of the charm and appeal.
I always think back to the moments that I cherished when I was growing up in the music industry, and when I saw Nirvana perform, on the acoustic set of MTV Unplugged. There's a moment in there, and I don't even know the song that it's in, but it has this feedback through Kurt's microphone right when he goes in to sing the chorus part. And I think of that every time I hear that song. I think of that one little feedback, and it's a complete mess up. It's a flub on the audio engineer's part, right? But it's there, and it's there forever. It's just something they just didn't get rid of. And I always think of that imperfection, and that's what made me think, the imperfections are okay. There's a moment where Lane Staley, when Alice in Chains does it, forgets part of the words, and that imperfection of that performance just stands out in our minds,
Yeah, I agree. I think that it makes the music human, and it makes, quote unquote rock stars human, and there's just something comforting and human about that.
And it captures a literal moment. Like when you're hearing a perfect recording, you don't think of the moment it was recorded. You just know that it exists in whatever time period in your life, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I'll give you an example. If you discover the Beatles at age, 14, they were around for 40 years before that. You don't think of that. You just think of it the moment it impacted your life then. But if you're around for the moment that the MTV Unplugged comes out, or the moment that a specific concert you're at, you're able to contextualize it in real time. I know that's a long-winded answer, and I'm sorry.
No, I love it. I think that's a great way to put it. And it's cool to talk about this because, as I mentioned, so much music is just perfect sounding now. So it's definitely refreshing to have this out there, even though it does sound pretty perfect.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. We're really proud of it. He sounds amazing. It's easy to sound good with a singer like that.
Oh, absolutely. What do you think getting this kind of new music from Chester has meant to the fans who are missing him?
All I can do is tell you what they've responded to us with, and that's thousands of messages of positivity and love, and people telling us that Chester's voice has comforted them during difficult emotional times. Some people saying that his voice and the lyrics have helped them carry on and not do acts of personal harm or commit suicide, things like that. And to me, that if we can connect with fans like that, even if it's a small number of fans, it makes everything worth doing what we're doing.
Absolutely. Do you think that Chester's talent shines more in the strip setting or in his kind of more rockin', straight ahead stuff?
Well, it depends on what you like. I know a lot of Chester fans that love it when he screams, but I happen to like it when his voice turns to like that beautiful angle that he's able to do, and very few singers can do both, which is one of the things that make him so special in the first place. I think it depends on your mood, really. What are you in the mood to hear at the moment that you get to hear it? Because if you're in the mood to rage and get out some angst and anger, then hearing him scream and go off is a great way to do it. But if you're sitting, candlelight with your wife and having a glass of wine and just relaxing, and you get to hear him kind of come into your world with that real beautiful, soft approach that he does, I think you might appreciate that at the moment. So I like it all. I really do. I know that's not the answer you wanted. You wanted an either or, and I didn't give it to you.
No, that's perfect. I like it. I'd rather have that than like a yes or no.
No, I won't bore you with that. I'll give you long-winded answers that you may not want instead.
No, that's perfect. Going back in time, what was Chester like as a teenager when he was with you guys in Grey Daze?
It's an easy one. He was always the same guy. He didn't change. Even when he became super famous and wealthy, he did not change. He was always very compassionate, very considerate. He was always the life of the party. I mean, if you brought him into a room of 15 people, he was undoubtedly going to be the guy that jumps on the table and starts doing these over-the-top Three Stooges kind of sense of humor antics that he had. He had a lot of Jim Carrey in him, just kind of crazy, animated sense of humor where he was all over the place at all times. He was very caring. He was one of the best friends I've ever had in my life. He cared about not only the people he knew, but you could be a complete stranger, and he would sit down and talk to you for 45 minutes to an hour, even when he had somewhere he had to go. We'd be tugging on him sometimes going, Chester, we got to go. And he's like, I'm speaking with so-and-so. I just met this girl and I just met this guy, and they're telling me their story about their dog. And he would be genuinely interested in what they had to say. And I think that just bodes to how real he was. He didn't have to turn on a fake charm or a fake act when he was in front of the camera, in front of the microphone, or just meeting strangers. He was always the same guy.
What do you think it is about Chester that made him such a superstar?
Well, I think that's an easy one for me to answer too. The very first thing is that I just went over it. He's real. He believes everything he's singing about. So it's difficult to try to sell people when you're not feeling the emotions that you're singing about, right? When pop stars do it a lot, they phone it in. Somebody else has written a song about emotions they were feeling, and the pop star has to kind of read and interpret it, and then just dictate it off in a way that they can make it believable. That wasn't Chester at all. Like, he was literally writing about the things that were affecting him in his everyday life, and he was believable. The second thing, of course, was his talent. I mean, his ability to sing the way he was singing and screaming and soft-spoken, and his lyric writing, all those things contributed to making him a star. And then lastly, I think what made Chester ultra special was his ability to connect with the listeners. When they would hear Chester, they may be feeling a certain way, but they might not be able to describe it. As a young teenager, I couldn't describe all the sadness and emotions that I was having at the time, but you could listen to Chester sing and you could go, that right there, that's exactly how I feel what he's singing about, and they could connect to it in a way that made them feel included in what was being talked about. They felt like they were a part of the song. That's one of the things that people go, I can't believe so many people feel like they knew him that never met him. And I said, yeah, if you think about it, they're with him in those songs. Those songs are journeys for them personally. And that's what made him as big a star as he was.
I agree. I think that a lot of his music, just everyone could relate to it, if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. And he made it okay for you to feel bad. He made you okay with feeling bad. Like, yeah, we all feel bad sometimes. It's okay. He wasn't singing how, and I guess I should reframe that. He wasn't talking about, he's happy that he is feeling bad or how cool it is to feel bad. He was saying, look, I feel bad, or I feel lonely, or I feel sad, and it's okay because things are gonna be better, or maybe he's talking about the pain of losing someone in his life, and it's okay to grieve. He just made you feel okay with not being okay.
No, that's a good way to put it. It was actually Chester's idea to get Grey Daze back together for a show and stuff before he passed away, right?
Yeah, so that's how it started. Was Chester called me and pitched me the idea on putting the band back together, and I said yes, of course. We had tried a couple of times throughout the years. A lot of people don't know that, but we had tried to put Grey Daze back together several times, and just the timing never worked out. Once in 2002, and then once in 2007. And then again, finally, we agreed to do it in 2016. And once we did that, we were gonna do our first performance for Chester and I's business, Club Tattoo. We were gonna throw an anniversary party and do the band reunion there. That, as soon as we made that announcement, it just evolved immediately into, now we're going to do more shows. And then after the other shows started coming around, we started getting these offers to tour. And then we said, well, we have these albums. Why don't we put them out? And then, of course, through that dialogue, we decided to re-record them, and we started working with a producer on retracking the stuff while Chester was still alive. I don't think we would have been doing this project had Chester passed and we weren't already in the middle of working on it all.
What do you miss most about Chester?
His sense of humor. We had a really stupid sense of humor together, and we would joke about the dumbest things and call each other and just talk about music and life and surfing, or working out, just everyday stuff. He was just a normal guy, and he was a good friend, and I missed that part of him. Just the sense of humor. I had some of the funnest and funniest moments of my life were hanging out with that guy.
Good memories, so at least you have that.
Yes.
Knowing Chester, were you surprised that he ended his life? I mean, I'm just, as a listener, I was surprised, but I'm not sure, people on the inside, if it was something he always struggled with.
So over the years, he did struggle in several different areas, right? But in the weeks and months leading up to his life, ending choice, I guess is the best way I can put that, I did not sense anything. I talked to him 2 nights before he passed. He was on top of the world. He was excited about starting rehearsals. He was excited about a lot of things we were doing. We were working on a new business location together. I didn't sense anything. Now, 8 or 9 months before that, my wife sensed something in him and said, Chester's not right. Something's off. And I said, no, I don't know. He's just trying to go for a new look or whatever. She said, no, I can see something in his eyes. And she literally said that to me. And I said, and I just blew it off, like, no, I don't think so. And then, of course, what happened. And it's easy to look back and go, oh yeah, she saw it, but you never truly know what's happening in someone's mind. And had Chester been thinking rationally, I don't think he would have done what he did at all. And I just think that that's what depression does, is it removes the rational thought process from the moment that you take that choice.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there's somebody there to help talk you out of it, or to guide you in a different way, or to distract you away from it. But the way this happened, it didn't. There was nobody else there. And when that hit him at that specific moment, there was nobody else for him to lean on at the time. And that's the most unfortunate thing, I think.
Yeah, I know. It's heartbreaking. Do you think that you guys will ever dedicate a new song to him or do anything like that?
We dedicate every song to him.
Yeah.
And the whole reason we did this record, the Amends album, and Stripped, and even the next record, is because of our friend. And we don't ever lose sight of that. That's why you see when we do our videos and stuff, we make it Chester-centric, because we're not delusional about having millions of fans for ourselves. And that's not a goal of ours, and we don't care about that. It's really to pay homage and to make his fans know that, A, there's more music out there that they haven't heard, and get to appreciate him in a way that maybe they didn't see before. So everything we're doing is for him.
No, that's so great. And did you say that you do have new music on the way, a new record coming?
Yeah. We'll be in the studio in April, and we'll be starting to work on it. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. We've been writing for the last 8 months. We just finished writing the record, and now we're going in to record it.
Wow. And will it have Chester's vocals? Do you have more of those?
Of course.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Grey Daze isn't Grey Daze without Chester.
That's awesome. How are you finding this stuff? Did you guys, just have it stored? You kept it all. Okay.
Yeah, we kept it all. So, I used to own a recording studio as well. So I understand, and I produce records and engineered records. I understand. You don't throw that stuff away, And then there was another set of tapes that our original guitar player, Jason Barnes, had that he gave me when we started working with Chester to recapture some of these songs. So we have at least one more record.
That's exciting. I'm sure that fans will be very happy to get it, because that first record, wow, when it came out last year, people were just so happy to get something new from Chester.
Thank you. Well, we've been working hard on it, and of course it has Chester's amazing performances, so hopefully they can connect to it and love it the way it's intended to be. That's really our goal, is just to make it as good as possible. And we're going in with a producer named Shooter Jennings.
Oh yeah, he's great.
In April, another producer who's going to co-produce it named S.J. Jones, who helped us do a lot of the songs on the first album. So we're excited.
Awesome. What about touring? Whenever, God willing, touring is back, do you guys think you'll ever hit the road?
I don't know, man. In order for us to do it, it would have to be done so tastefully, and I don't want to be on stage with a cheesy hologram of Chester. I don't want to do that. So in order for us to do it, we'd have to do some really unique video screens or something that include Chester, and maybe bring out some guest singers. And I just keep wrestling with it, like how to do it right is the main issue, because we can go and play festivals now and get some money to do that, but if it's not going to be cool and do it in a respectful way that still makes Chester look good, I don't really want to be part of it.
Right. It's a tough
And neither does Mace or Kristen. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no. You're right. It's a tough call, because the hologram thing, I'm personally not a fan of. And you could always get a vocalist to tour and stuff, but it is just a tough call. I understand.
Yeah. So I guess to that point is we just haven't decided yet or figured out a way to do it the right way yet.
Have you talked to Mike Shinoda at all? Because, he had been putting out stuff fairly recently, and I'm just not sure if you guys knew him as well as Chester.
I do not know him as well as Chester. I've been around him many times, of course. I spoke to him the day of the funeral. He and I both gave eulogies, and then I saw him at Melinda's wedding, just spoke to him briefly. And then I saw him at the Chester tribute that the band Linkin Park did in October of 2017, right after Chester passed away. Mike and I don't really see eye to eye on a lot of stuff, and I respect the band Linkin Park, and I would never want to tarnish anything that they did with Chester, because I'm in Chester's corner no matter whether he's playing in my band or their band or Stone Temple Pilots or Dead by Sunrise. I'm just a fan of my friend, period. So I support him in anything that he does, and I hope there's more Linkin Park music out there with Chester on it. I hope they put it out. Yeah,
that would be interesting to hear for sure. Above all, what do you hope fans take away from Amends and everything that you guys are doing with Grey Daze?
To me, it's very simple, just to have a different appreciation of Chester than they had before. Doesn't mean it has to be better or worse, just different. These songs are not Linkin Park. They don't sound like Linkin Park. They sound like Chester. They sound like Grey Daze. And if you're a Chester fan, I think you'll get it, and I think you'll like it. And if you're not, then that's okay too.
Awesome. Well, it's been great talking with you. Is there anything else that you want to share?
No, just keep an eye out for the new Grey Daze record sometime this year, and hopefully you like Amends Stripped, and we appreciate you just giving it a chance.
Awesome. So this year, actually, you think the new record will be out?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be out probably towards the end of summer, I'm guessing.
Wow, that's great. Cannot wait to hear it. Awesome. Well, thank you again, and take care. Congrats again on all the success, and thanks for keeping Chester's legacy alive.
Oh, thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.
Sean from Grey Daze, thank you for being an awesome guest on my show. Definitely check out that new record, Amends Stripped, featuring acoustic versions of tracks on Amends and other kind of bonus stuff. And like I said, hearing Chester's voice with that acoustic setting is just really awesome. If you are a fan of Chester, you've got to check it out. And I love the fact that Sean is really trying to kind of carry that torch, I guess you could say, or he's trying to kind of continue that legacy of Chester Bennington and really making all of the Grey Daze stuff very Chester-centric and Chester-focused. He says it's really about being a tribute to Chester, and I love that. I think that the guys are really doing Chester's legacy a big service. And I also think if you haven't checked out Amends, which came out last year, check out that full record. It's a great one. And hopefully there's more. It sounds like they're working on a second record featuring Chester's vocals, and they've got a lot of stuff on tape and stuff like that they saved, and I cannot wait to hear it. Once again, thank you, Sean, for being a great guest. It's Anne Erickson. You're rocking on the Audio Inc. Radio podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, kind of mad at you, not going to front, but get in touch. Subscribe. It's very easy. Just search Anne Erickson or search Audio Inc. Radio wherever you rock out to podcast. Hit subscribe, and it really has been a great help to get us out there on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We've been charting all over the world thanks to you. Thank you for the amazing support. Get in touch with me online, facebook.com/Audio Inc. Radio, twitter.com/Audio Inc. Radio, and you can get in touch with me on my personal socials. Head to the site, itsmeanne.com. That's itsmeanne.com. itsmeanne.com, and you'll link up to my personal Facebook on there, Twitter and Snapchat at Anne Erickson, Instagram at Erickson Anne. And finally, if you haven't yet, check out my band, Upon Wings. Yes, I have my own band. It is a female-led kind of operatic rock band, but not so flowery and operatic that it's going to sound like total opera. It definitely is still a metal or rock band, but Upon Wings, check us out at uponwings.com. I've got more great guests lined up for this show. It's going to be an amazing year, and got a broad range of guests as well. So no matter what kind of music you like, no matter what you're into, the topics that we cover and the different guests, I think you're really going to enjoy it. And I look forward to hanging out with you right here on the podcast all year long. It's Anne Erickson on Audio Inc. Radio, and until next time, be safe, God bless, and we'll rock soon.
It's Audio Inc. with Anne.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Audio Inc. Radio podcast. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. Get inked online at audioinkradio.com. I'm Anne Erickson for the Audio Inc. Radio podcast.